Again, we have Frank as our moderator, and let me briefly introduce him again. He is the founder and CEO of Properly Asia, which delivers top-notch tools and application targeting property management, leasing and tenancy defect management, and effective communication. This session, we are going to talk about how the latest digital scan to BIM technology can assist heritage buildings, conversion and redevelopment. The other two speakers of the session will be Jessica Yong. She is building doctor from structural repairs, which the business has 37 years of experience in the construction industry. She works with few listed property developers involving in different types of developments, with the roles including business development to sales, marketing, market survey, feasibility study, etc. Next, we have Razak Wong. He is a reality capture specialist in 3D laser scanning, photogrammetry, scan to BIM and BIM application. His business is supplying digital construction workflow and modeling services. Razak Wong, you better join us in MPA as member, and of course, Jessica Yong as well. Welcome you, please. And let me pass the floor to you, Frank.
Okay, thank you very much, Angela. Thank you for the kind introduction. Yeah. Sorry?
No, you were not. So, all right, yeah.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much for the kind introduction, and thank you for the 2-minute toilet break I got from you, because I had 2 sessions and all morning I've been drinking from this big cup. So thanks again for organizing this and pitching for new members of MPA. Thank you so much. Okay, I think this is an interesting session that we saw in this appear in our schedule, because the title is How the Latest Digital Scan to BIM Technology Can Assist Heritage Buildings, Conservation and Redevelopment. Now, I know Jessica a little bit. I had some really long talks with her, and I have not met Razak yet, so I'm really looking forward to hear from him. But in principle, all this while we have been discussing in the last 2 days about smart cities, ESG, SDG, but nobody has talked about the old buildings in the city. So it's so great to hear from 2 specialists on the heritage of this beautiful city, Kuala Lumpur, because that's probably your main field of what you work, and probably you might be working in some other areas, but we can discuss this as well at a later stage. Now, for a quick one, just an introduction to anybody that's here. If you've ever been to the city center of Kuala Lumpur and you've been to a place like, for instance, one of these sky bars, or you've been to the helipad bar, for instance, where you get an amazing view of the city, and only what you see is new buildings as far the eye can reach, all the way from Kuala Lumpur city center, all the way to Putrajaya, even all the way to Klang on a good day, you can see only new buildings. So it's so good to see that you guys actually work on the heritage part of the city. So let's discuss a little bit more, because I understand very well that you use some very old and traditional techniques to keep these buildings in top-notch shape. And I also understand that in this case, Razak, you bring a technology, a very modern technology, not that new, I understand from some of the materials that I've read in the last couple of days, but the technology is moving forward to even bring these buildings up to a level of what we can expect of brand new buildings. Now, Jessica, I understand that you in the industry, you are known as the building doctor. That's interesting, yeah? So can you tell me a little bit more about yourself, your background, how did you get here today, and why you have a love for old buildings?
Good morning, friends and everybody. Hi, I'm Jessica Yong. Thanks for the invitation to share about this heritage conservation. So for myself, I'm graduated from the UK with a master in business administration and also a degree in estate management. So I practice valuation and property research with Colliers, Jordani and Jaffa, which is a well-known property consultant. As I mentioned before, I also work for a few property developers dealing with different type of township, hotel, resort, and mixed development. I have joined back a family business, which is a CNS contractor specialized in building and infrastructure and repair maintenance, ranging from waterproofing, crack repairs, facade restoration, settlement issue, And what we're specialized in also is the heritage conservation. We have been trained by UNESCO, United Nations. We have been involved with heritage projects in Malaysia and overseas, such as the Papua New Guinea, Sri Lanka. Yeah, and along the years, we have adopted like building diagnosis using technology, BIM, like 3D laser scanning, infrared tomography. And the signatures projects we have done include like KLCC, KLIA, the Smart Tunnel, the PMB 118, Transact Exchange, and the Parliament.
Oh.
Yes. Yes, we have completed the facade repairs and waterproofing for the phase 1 and phase 2. Actually, we are very excited to wait for the phase 3 to happen as long as the government has settled.
Okay.
Anyway, as for heritage projects, we won an award for Masjid Kapitan Keling. The mosque is made of, the dome is made of copper. So we have won an award restoring the very old mosque in Penang, and also won an award for another mosque, which is the Masjid Negara, our national mosque. And as well as, if you know, the Portuguese settlement in Malacca, we have done structural strengthening for the Air Famosa, as well as all the 99 village houses made of timber. Yeah, I will share more later. Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
very good. Thank you so much. And Razak, can you tell us a little bit more? And of course, we're going to talk about your technology that you apply. Can you tell us a little bit more how you got into the industry and what you exactly do today?
Okay, Razak here. Myself is a land surveying graduate, right? Further studied in my master in business admin. I'm lucky enough to engage in the technology-based company way back in 2001, right? And then have been involved with products from Leica Geosystems, okay, since then, right? And in 2006, I think I break away from the traditional surveying technology, right? And I've placed so-called focus on laser scanning, yeah, because I think first of all, I think it's a new technology. In fact, it has been it came into Malaysia since 2001. Okay, but there are no takers from that itself. So I said, well, I think this must be a good choice. Okay, to to play with and to focus on it, and have been going around to promote. But then I think way back to year 2006 and between 2010, okay, not much of that kind of like a so-called demands on that. Yeah, so it's okay. We will just try to venture ourselves to do more on focus on buildings. Okay, maybe platform and so forth. So it's partly because of the so-called I would say interest. Okay, for that. So eventually it leads to a further and bigger markets whereby we come across a heritage, okay, constructions, or even for new buildings on that. So I'm not a building surveyor, no engineers, but have a very much interest in scanning and then into buildings for that, because we have so many buildings around Malaysia, okay, which is I think worth to promote, not only just for repairing, just conservation, but again bring more tourists to come in Malaysia, okay, and enjoy our cultures on that. Yeah. So that's a brief on the interest on the laser scanning on that.
Oh, right. Yeah, I forgot to mention, sorry, you mentioned the property surveyor. Oh, starting from this year, May, I'm the registered property surveyor with the RISM, which is the Royal Institute of Surveyor Malaysia. That's where we can collaborate.
Yes. Okay, good. So, Razak, let me continue with Razak because I want to hear a little bit about the technology. Then we move back into the heritage buildings part. So, Razak, tell us a little bit more on how this technology works. I hope that most of us here are familiar with the term BIM, Building Information Modeling, right? So, how does your scanning system work, and what kind of technologies does the apparatus look like? Can you tell us a little bit more on maybe a little bit on the hardware, and then maybe tell us a little bit more on how that works in the software part as well?
Okay, I think as far as just now we have a few panelists from previous sessions talk about IoTs, okay, talk about data and so forth. Okay, I will say that okay, I think first and foremost important, we need the base data. Okay, for buildings, okay, if you do have a smart buildings, you need to have the building footprints on that, right? Okay, so the problem in Malaysia, okay, most of the old buildings, we doesn't have the building plans. Okay, maybe it doesn't have the measure drawings for that matters. You will want to conserve for that. So this is where the scanning come into pictures. Okay, scanning basically is I would say it's a hardware whereby it's a surveying tools, right? it emits hundreds of thousands of points per second, okay, like a 3D photograph itself. Okay, you can think about that, right?
Right. Does it work with laser or
Laser, yeah, it's
laser?
a laser.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
At the same time, it also have a photographic. Okay, it has been improved from year 2000 until now. Now we have like I think at least a 4K photograph itself. So the results coming from this hardware, okay, it will be like immersive type of like a so-called data where you're not just getting the data itself in color form. You can measure it. Okay, you can walk through it. Okay, then even you can share it amongst the so-called engineers or maybe planners on that. Yep.
Right.
That will be on the hardware. As for the software concern itself, there are some software whereby because scanning is involving you scan location by locations. Okay, say buildings of 4 stories, you want to scan it. So we'll just scan around the building. Okay, scan the door to door, right, and then it will connect it through the staircase, right. And it depends on what subjects that we're looking at. If it says, okay, for restorations, maybe just a facade and the building plans. As for maybe M&E, okay, then that could be part of the repair system itself. Then perhaps if it's open so-called ceiling, that's fine. If it's not, then we have to scan the ceiling for that. Then itself, we'll gather all the, we call it point cloud. Yeah, point cloud itself, it's a measurement point cloud, and then into a so-called a working database. Yeah. Then we work on using, basically, we are using technology from Leica Geosystems. Okay. Yeah, then that will be on the hardware and processing software. As for the software processing to scan the BIM, okay, the BIM side, we're using technology from Autodesk, okay, Revit, okay, AutoCAD itself, and convert this point cloud. It's like Lego, okay, we build part by parts, okay, element by elements, okay, discipline by disciplines for that. Then we form up the BIM model. Then subsequently, then we'll be generating 3D models, okay, and also I would say drawings on that.
Right. So in principle, the technology works inside the building and outside the building. So you can make, so you virtualize the whole building actually. Is that what you do?
Yes, correct. Okay. That will be another scan to BIM have, I think, of these, I would say that maybe before year 2010 and 12 will be scan to BIM. But now on the bigger context, right, we're looking at maybe the digital twins on that, because we have the physical buildings and we can bring the physical buildings and models into a digital world on that.
Right. How long, just to learn a little bit more about the technology, how long does the process take to, let's take a relatively small building, like a house, for instance. How long would that take you to actually scan that?
Scanning a house, I would say maybe like, I would say a double-story terrace house in Malaysia, okay? Right. With the latest technology, maybe an hour or two.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 1 or 2.
So it's a very, very fast process.
If it's only we use a static type, there are different scanners. There are static scanners. There are also a mobile laser scanning, okay? Mobile handheld scanning. If you use the static scanners, it will take about an hour, at most 2, at most 2. I would say less than an hour. But if you use a mobile laser scanning, okay, it will take, I would say, 10 minutes. Imagine that, just because different data, different data set itself. In fact, it's very good for, I would say that property, because we can sell so-called the property, okay, with this data to buyers from overseas without having them coming physically here, to get them interest first, yeah, okay. So that, people, investors, okay, maybe so-called my Malaysia second home, okay, they could go on the website and look at it, the size and everything, so before they decide to so-called come and buy the properties itself.
Right. So it's, completely, in the end, you're building digital twins, right? So a digital version of the actual object.
Yes.
So that people can walk around it, walk inside, turn it around, look at the bottom, look at from a top side. So it's very different from looking at a floor plan, for instance, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Fantastic. Very, very interesting. I've been just writing an article for a Dutch guy about something very similar. So Jessica, you are known as the building doctor, and I'm sure that means that you do a lot of remediation work, as you just explained, like crack treatments and waterproofing and things like that. So how do you use Razak's technology in helping all the buildings to get a longer life, in principle?
Well, how do we apply it? So basically, it captures it allows to create virtual building models, which can be linked to all these numerical data, images, other types of information.
Right.
So we need, or like building components like walls and floor. So after we find out all this kind of information and work together with the heritage consultant, we make out what is the building materials, what kind of stones, what hold the masonry together for the heritage, and then we carry out the dilapidation survey. And that gets all the information. How can we restore it back as authentic as possible? Because if you replace the old elements with new tiles, new wall, then it definitely jeopardizes the heritage value.
Right.
So, yeah.
So Razak, when you scan a building, do you also detect, for instance, defects? Are you actually with your technology? I'm just asking because I'm a total layman in this field. Yeah.
Actually,
are you able to actually also penetrate a wall so you can actually see what happens inside a wall through your technology, or it stays just on the surface?
yeah, I will be say based on the surface, because it's a laser, it doesn't penetrate through the wall. But the good part is because with the measurements, with the high resolutions photography itself, that can be used for dilapidation survey. Okay,
Right.
Let's say to detect, let's say where are the cracks. Okay, you know the exact location for that. You can do measurements on that. I would say to a couple there'll be that kind of accuracy, right?
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then you would know exactly location. Let's say you tag the location, say a building instead of a house. Okay, building, we have a so-called heritage building, say, okay, 2 stories, okay, fairly big, like then we'll know, normally the lab survey, we will have to take photograph, right? Then different locations, and then come back and then take it manually in a Microsoft Word, maybe, okay?
Yes, okay.
But I would suppose that can be further improved for building surveying, right? And take it as a so-called digital reports, yeah, okay? We go on site, we scan it, right? We identify the defects together with the building surveyor, right? And there's a water seepage on whatever on site, yeah. Then in fact, apart from scanning it, we can make use of the iPad examples, okay? Maybe zoom in, close up, take a photo, tag to a specific locations, yeah. And all these photo will be appears, okay, in the software later on itself, okay. Then imagine that you're bringing the site, okay, back to the office, and then we can discuss virtually and see what we can best get the best out of that from this data. So
Okay.
the lab survey could be part of that. Okay. As for the going inside the building, that might be different technologies on that. For the wall, beyond the wall.
Okay. Yeah, I must say I'm so surprised on how these technologies move forward. I mean, I just saw a video on drone technology and how that is able to detect the most small cracks in a wall. It's unbelievable. And it's then AI that is applied to actually find these cracks. So these cracks are not visible with the naked eye. They are there, but not that visible yet. But the AI, so do you apply AI on the data that you scan as well?
Not for now. I think basically because we at the moment, basically the data that we gather, if it's for detection itself at the moment, we have not ventured into it. But I would say that for flatness examples, build quality examples, we want to know verticality for a building itself. Okay, we can do some analysis on top of that. I would say that a wall examples, okay, for preservation or conservation, is straight or not. Okay, it's because event examples there will be so-called, we have floodings in KL, right, Kuala Lumpur. Yep. And then potentially cause some defects on the wall itself. Yeah. So we can actually say, okay, fine, a wall supposed to be vertical, right? And then how far it has been so-called being slanted. Yeah. Okay. So we can do that analysis. As for the floor flatness itself, perhaps there'll be sinking area for an area. We don't know how much sink is the area. We can do a monitoring before, we apply for the structural repairs on that. Yeah. Okay. Right. So that will be a complement kind of like a so-called data into analysis on that.
Right. Right. Okay. Very interesting. So Jessica, how do you apply this technology? Maybe you can share some of the projects that you've done and that relate to the BIM, scan to BIM technology.
Yes, actually. So thanks, Rasa, for explaining what is scan to BIM and all the benefits. But let me share about why is it important? Is that necessary? Actually, for heritage conservation, what are they? Speaking of values, what are they? There are many intangible values like evidential value, historical value, aesthetic value, communal value, and so how to capture all these seems intangible values effectively. Right. So how do we help our governments, the decision makers and owners of heritage buildings in understanding the positive impact, including the BIM in their management and operational processes, right, as well as a guiding tool for the academic researchers. So it's not only allow, as I mentioned, creating virtual building values, but it's also critical because it will affect other values. What are the other values? Like cultural values, how to keep the past for the future, tourism value. Before pandemic, yep, just so you know, tourism contribute to 10.3% of the world GDP. As for Malaysia, just the last week I researched is 12.8%. So what is the market value for the heritage redevelopment? So if you look at the bigger picture, this is not just data capture technology. Right. So just to share what are the projects we have done, we can break down to 3 types of heritage projects. The first one is religious cultural buildings like the Masjid Negara, our national mosque. We did a restoration back in 2019, which also won an award under the conservation category. We carry out the crack repairs, the rooftop, the facade restoration, and the dome is with 200 feet diameter. So in this project, we use 3D laser scanning. Actually, we also come across Razak Wong's Razak's company, and also the infrared tomography scanning to detect the leakage point. And second type of historical site is like the Air Famosa in Malacca, as I mentioned. We did the structure strengthening. We used the petrography analysis to see the characteristic of the stones and bricks, and also we restored the 99 village houses of timber, which is called Kampong Morton, and it's still currently occupied by local families. And the third one which is a trend now, is the heritage redevelopment for readaptive usage. So one of the projects, we converted an old palace, Istana Hulu in Perak, into a museum with some wall cutting, facade restoration. Now it's an art gallery open for public. Welcome you to visit. We also redeveloped a 12 units of heritage shop lots owned by Ropakot into a boutique hotel with cafes and boutique retails, which is now called the White Away Arcade in Lebo Pantai, Penang Island. So you feel free to have a look. It's still in a very good condition now, since we restored it back in 2005. In Kuala Lumpur, we did a 3D laser scanning on Rumah Tangsi. Previously, it's a rich man mansion, Chow Kit's house. So it was also become the headquarters of PAM, the Architect Association, and now it's an active event space in cafe. Yep. So it sparked the questions like how far we can use it to actually not just conserve, but also redevelop the old part of the city.
Right. So just to come back to 2 things that have been used, even in the title of this session. When we talk about heritage buildings in Malaysia, are these buildings have a specific age? Is that 50 years or older than 70 years or even older? What determines if a building is a heritage building, yes or no?
Well, in Malaysia, we don't have the really old buildings by the international standard, but for the government, maybe at least 100 years old to be gazetted, maybe for certain historical or cultural value to be gazetted as a heritage buildings. But I think fairly to say pre-war 100 years old. Yeah.
So, I mean, of course, we all know our historical cities as Malacca and Georgetown that have gotten World Heritage status by UNESCO. Unfortunately, in a city like Kuala Lumpur, where so many new buildings have been built, there is so little left of the old days, which is such a pity. But I understand that you do redevelopment. Now, when I saw the term the first time, my mind skipped for a moment, like, okay, redevelopment. So can you explain, Jessica, a little bit more on what you mean with redevelopment? And I mean, maybe we can ask Razak on how he helps redevelopment with his scanning technology. So maybe Jessica, can you answer first what you really mean with redevelopment?
Redevelopment is to fully utilize the potential of the local old buildings, not only limited to gazetted heritage buildings such as a Chinatown, the Pataling Street. It can turn into a more happening, well-preserved tourism area like Jonker Street and Malacca. So, and also a very good example of the redevelopment project, like the KL River of Life. It divided into 3 main components: the river cleaning, river master planning of the beautification. Actually, the budget is 1.3 billion USD. It's supposed to cover the confluences of 3 city rivers, total of about 700, 800 hectares of the water bodies to bring the community back to the river through transformation, turn it into some vibrant waterfront, which you can see now, all those colorful bridges, and then the cafes starting built along the river to, to get more higher economy and commercial value. And also in the planning for KL River of Life, supposed to deliver affordable housing, which I heard about affordable housing for more than 35,000 new residents, 1 million square meters of commercial space, and about more than 27,000 new employment opportunities, and raise the public transportation usage within the master plan. You all know how much we can improve for our public transportation in Kuala Lumpur. So, and also hopefully can reduce the traffic. So by the redevelopment, it has hit a bit of a limitation restriction because this need a huge effort. Because to restore a heritage building, let's put in an example, a block of shop lot in Chinatown, Kuala Lumpur, you need to invest 5 million to purchase the old building. Let's say if you don't own it.
Is that because of the location?
Yes.
Wow.
Because the location, yes, is 4 to 5 million for a shop lot, 2-story shop lot. So in order to redevelop the shop lots, you will spend, maximum you will spend 1.5 million. That is inclusive of a 900,000 for the consultation fee. Yes, to redevelop it. So it's actually very expensive. And if we don't let the government understand the importance, how it can bring up the tourism, the overall, the city redevelopment, because land is so limited, you can't have unlimited land to build new buildings. You need to work on the old buildings. So yeah, so we'll hopefully work together closely with the government. And let's hope that this KL River of Life will be a success project, because last year, the Star News mentioned is a 92% complete now and will be ready by 2024. So let's hope so. And I also would like to throw the question to the audience. Where you think we can redevelop, that has a potential to redevelop in Malaysia, and we can apply this technology?
Okay. Put your answers in the questions or answers or in the chat, then we can read them back later. That's great. It's so good to see that you are both are advocates of this redevelopment process, and that's fantastic. So Razak, maybe you can explain a little bit more on how your technology then helps in the redevelopment, because Jessica just talked a little bit about the purchase of just one shop lot, right? How does your technology then helps in the actual development of and renovation of that shop lot?
I think from my perspective, it comes into picture when you start designing it. Okay, you need to have a master plan, right? Okay. Obviously, we can get 2D plans, okay, from the council, from the mapping agency for that. But I think nowadays 2D is not sufficient anymore. Okay, people like to visualize it, how the city is being built. Okay, how is the so-called maybe the renovations, okay, will affect the facade, the scenarios, okay, for this area itself. So this way the 3D come into pictures for visualizations part itself, okay. And now for the technologies, okay, examples, we take examples, yeah, where we have the Chinatown, okay. And first of all, it's maybe think about it. I would like to, maybe it's a 2-row shops, streets is for that. Then perhaps you can scan the area first, yeah. Scan the area first, we obtain, few roads area, the vicinities for that, and then other facade on that. Now, with that itself, then you can choose whether it should repaint the area,
right,
okay, or we renovate it, how it looks like. Then, but again, we can't do it physically, right? It's costly. So we spend the money in digi for that.
Yes,
okay?
Understood.
And for developers itself, okay, then I have the data, how it looks like if I have to spend X amount of money.
Right.
If I spend 10x amount of money and 100x amount of money itself, then itself that suits the purpose, because fit for purpose for that. Okay, so a technologies come in place, gather the data, make the proposals, okay, and then give the so-called the governments or maybe the so-called the funders, okay, a budget, a budget that fit for the purpose itself, okay, for some form meaning, okay. Then I think that will help. It's the basic for redevelopments on that, okay. And for a bigger pictures, let's say we want to do renovations technically itself, with the data itself, okay, whether it's on just the facade or so-called indoor of the building itself, Then it's how you want to plan. Okay, you want to renovate the building itself. Yeah, whether it's preserve the structures. Okay, that's where the let's say doctors come in for the doctor repairs coming.
Yes.
And then for, I said, you want to the so-called change the facade, just everything tear down, just the facade, how it looks like. Okay. Now this data itself will give you not only a measurement X, Y, Z, okay, but also the coordinates, maybe the boundaries, all right, in the digital platform itself. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Then they say, okay, fine. Next door, I want to rebuild a 5-story. Okay. How it will affect the neighbors view, okay, on that itself. So you have that in virtually itself. And then that helps, okay, to say, okay, and can sell the idea to the DBKL, right? the DBKL for the council itself. This is the developments, okay, this is the cost for them. So
Right.
not just artistic impressions, okay. So we have artistic impressions, fine, but then this is the real data for that, okay. And the byproducts, okay, we can, okay, sell through internet. It's like they say, okay, we want to bring more investors coming in to develop this area, okay.
Right.
How would that, the funding is coming in locally? Okay, fine. There are some, I think, sentiments of that. Okay, they're not going to invest. Yeah, but you want to bring investors. Okay, fine. How are you going to share it with them? So bring this digitally for that. Okay, and then show how they can set up maybe restaurants. Okay, a variety kind of industry, a supply chain industry for that. Okay, and this help to come in. I would say, that would be the byproducts. Yeah, from this technical itself. And I have this projects somehow in KL. It's a school. Okay, the architects came to know that this technology is quite suitable for AI networks itself. So purposely to scan the surrounding of the school, right? And for the redevelopment purposes, okay, they want to see, okay, would the development be affecting the so-called the housing, the environment for that matters. Okay, that's where connections from building to buildings for that matters. Okay, so that's where the architects can make use of the data in that way.
Okay, very, very interesting. So let's talk a little bit more about the future. Jessica, first thing I would like to hear from you is, because you just listed out all the projects that you worked on, that's very, very amazing, and lots of very recognizable buildings. Now, which is the project that you worked on that you're most proud of in your career?
Oh, the proudest of project.
Just one, yeah?
Just one. Okay, the latest one would be the KLCC water tank. Waterproofing of the basement car park water tank. We have to engage the commercial diver to dive into the water tank, and then we communicate to do the survey before we remove all the water. Yeah, it was an 8 months project. And then we actually had a documentary about it.
Okay.
Yes.
Can we find that online?
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
I will share the link.
Yes, great. Share a link in the chat here. That would be wonderful, and everybody can see it later. But after APPS 2022, yeah, after 7 p.m. you can watch Jessica's documentary. Good. Jessica, what's in the pipeline? Let's talk a little bit about the future. Number one is, where do you see that the building doctor is going to go, and finding more heritage buildings that can be redeveloped? What do you have coming? What's next? One of the big projects that you're working on?
Okay, there are 2 parts of direction we are moving towards. So let's share about the first part, which is the redevelopment. So currently we are working with the heritage architect that work on heritage and sustainable developments together with the town planner. So take on projects to do some maybe joint venture, to do some adaptive usage, maybe turn into some old boutique hotels into a confinement home, retirement home, which is a trend nowadays. That is the redevelopment part. As for another bigger direction, which we would like to work with Raza, is about infrastructure. Maybe not so much of heritage now, but infrastructure. Because as far as I know, Malaysia, we don't have the Infrastructure Maintenance Act. We only have the Asset Management Act, but it's coming up because our company is invited to be the validation panel to discuss like how feasible is this Infrastructure Maintenance Act. So in the long run, BIM, digitalize of the data will be crucial for long-term maintenance of infrastructure. Okay, maybe I didn't mention what kind of infrastructure that we do repair, besides the bridges, the highways, the water treatment plant, the power plant, the MRT station, which we had an accident earlier this year, the collision at the KLCC. I hope it will not happen again. So for all this type of infrastructure, including the heritage, so it will need more a good or what do you call that? Overall integrated maintenance system.
Right.
And then we would like to venture into the facility management, not just being a repair contractor. So that's what we are. So that's why in the long run we are working on facility management.
Right. Okay. Very good. Exciting times ahead then. So Razak, and you just spoke and explained to us very much in detail on how your scan to BIM system works. Where do you see your technology go in the near future? Where do you think this could go?
Near futures, I think talk about BIM or scan to BIM, right? I think for the audience, I think BIM will be embarked by JKR, the Public Works Departments, in 2023. I think we came to know that 75% will be in BIM projects, so okay, BIM enabled projects for that. So I think equivalently, I think they're also emphasizing on the as-built LD 500, okay, not just for the verifications, BIM verifications, but also meant for I would say that for the potentially for government buildings on that, okay. Now these are the technical part whereby the building plans and so forth, yeah, okay. Now the byproducts, I would say that the most important part is the not just the technical part, yeah, okay. How do we make use of the technical data, okay, and then benefiting the social economics from that, okay. I would say advertising the country, that will be the very future, yeah, because we have been we all have been in the so-called affected by the long 2.5 years to 3 years of lockdown here, okay. It's time to really advertise the country, rebuild the country for that matters, okay. Right. And I will say that a byproduct, I will always say that do not just look at technical, but make use of this technology and promote the country. It attracts more people because for instance, like, okay, we today we have gone to a nice restaurant, yeah, okay. We only tell our friend, hey, this restaurant serves very nice food, okay, and everything. We can tell word of mouth, but we say, okay, fine, I'll go try it, okay. But how to tell people that coming to Malaysia, somewhere down, the Chinatown, and try test the Hokkien Mee examples, yeah, okay. Right. So now same thing, yeah, okay. So if we can advertise all these things into so-called virtually, okay, and then write some good articles on that, okay. Not only just food, but properties, peoples, and so forth, okay. They'll be part of the so-called like attracting people coming to Malaysia. Okay?
I will put you in contact with a lady that I met this morning. She's building a Malaysian metaverse. Very, very interesting. I will put you in contact after this. Great. Thank you very much, Razak. We are nearly done and we have 2 more questions left. Let me first fire at Jessica, anonymous attendee. Hi, Jessica. Building settlement is getting more and more apparent these days. Is there a way for property managers to move forward with providing solutions to the actual purchasers? Please answer shortly because otherwise we're running out of time.
Okay, I think to answer this question, it's a bit difficult because I would think that prevention is better than cure. You can do all the underpinning, the grounding. You can try to stop or slow down the ground movement. But compared with that, it's better that the developers are doing a good job, wait for the brownfield or whatever field to get settled before they build the buildings on top. Right. Yeah, because once it's settled, you cannot leave it up. You only can stop it from settling more.
Okay, good. So prevention better than cure. All right.
Oh, and also I have a dilapidation survey team. You can work with the lawyers to sue the developer. Yeah.
Okay, so let's hope that there are property developers in the room. So prevention is better than cure. Okay, so we have another question from Vimala Devi, and she says the following: for structural and design, how is the design for disability aspect taken into the equation? As in Malaysia, we do not see a technical team to enforce that proper ramps are available, especially for wheelchair users who wants to move independently. What would you say to that? Because I'm sure that lots of the heritage buildings don't have these facilities. We have 1 more minute left to answer. Jessica?
Oh, sorry. I haven't seen the question.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
So in principle, oh, now I lost the question as well, and I just said done. The key thing is this, that because in Malaysia, there's no act to have, for instance, build wheelchair ramps in buildings. So how would that be addressed?
Wheelchair ramp.
So it becomes, the building becomes available for
That
people with
is,
disability.
yeah, that one we'll have to propose to the building planning,
Right.
the council, because I think not only the ramp to the building is about the overall facilities, because from your house on the access to the road and to the building is a long way, not
Yes.
only for the building.
True. However, as under SDGs, that should be part of, I mean, in principle, this all comes down to policies in principle.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, both of you. We just on time, we have 30 seconds left. So thank you very much, Jessica, our building doctor. Thank you very much, Razak, the champion on scanning, scan to BIM. Thank you for your time, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.